having fun in a cop car.
Yep. Tristan.
What's up, guys?
Yep.
Tristan, if you walk out the damn, it's in a cop car, cuz. She's tripping, dude.
Are you going to put me in prison and I'm gonna rot and die? Please don't cut off my head. It's just a window. And every wearing and hold on the outside. Sometimes I'm looking in.
How does one react once they learn they're going to spend all of their life in prison, especially when they're still just a teenager? Well, let's see some crazy reactions from 8 teenagers who received a life term in prison for their murders. This is Aiden Fucci, the infamous teenager responsible for a horrific juvenile crime in Florida. On May 9, 2021, St. John's, Florida, would witness a horrible crime. 13-year-old Tristan Bailey was fatally stabbed 114 times by 14-year-old Aiden Fucci, who then left her lifeless body in the woods. Subsequent security camera footage shockingly showed the aftermath of the crime, in which presumed he had escaped. In one, Fucci's mother is shown trying to clean his pants, which are smeared with blood. Fucci showed no regret, even though he lived in Bailey's neighborhood and attended the same school with her. He is seen having fun in a police car following the murder, as evidenced by a Snapchat video.
Having fun in a cop car.
Yep. Tristan.
What's up, guys?
Yep.
Tristan, if you walk out the damn, it's in a cop car, cuz. She's tripping, dude.
A clip from his time in custody shows Fucci talking to his parents without being fazed, making the scenario even more unsettling.
On this girl, right?
Where?
In our neighborhood. Down on Main Street.
Is she good?
No, she's dead. That's why this is very important. It's all on you right now.
This is my problem.
You were
He
the
was
last
the
one
last one seen with her. So right now, it's facing you right now, son.
This is very serious. You can't act like I don't know. I don't know. You can't
You
say
understand
nothing.
this is serious? Clearly. You understand, right?
Everything you say will affect you.
When the trial got underway, Fucci was being tried as an adult and was charged with first-degree murder. The proof was not helping his case. Security footage, the knife used in the crime, and witness testimonies from his girlfriend and friends all implied premeditated murder.
114 stab wounds, 49 defensive wounds, 35 wounds to the head and neck, 29 to the back and shoulder, and 6 fatal wounds.
Aiden kept knives for protection. He always had a knife on him if he wasn't at school. He would keep his AirPods. He listened to music to try and calm him down. He said that helped him with his anger.
Victim impact statements marked the most emotional point of the trial. Interestingly, Bailey's sister gave the court 114 heart-shaped marbles, each one representing a wound her sister had sustained.
114. This jar now holds 114 stones, one for each of the 114 stab wounds that my sister had to endure. I bear the thoughts that one day the trauma we have all been through because of the actions of Aiden Fucci will cost the lives of my other family members. I have been diagnosed with depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder. I have been unable to work at times during this process due to the trauma and PTSD attacks triggered by knives, blood, and open wounds. My relationships have suffered, my physical and mental health has diminished, and my goals for the future have seemingly disappeared. Aiden Fucci didn't just take Tristan's life that day, he took everything from us.
Following the verdict, Fucci was given a life term in jail, which was appropriate given the horrific nature of the crime he committed in killing Tristan Bailey.
Fucci, having entered a plea of guilty to the crime of first-degree murder, I adjudicate you guilty of the premeditated first-degree murder of Tristan Bailey. I sentence you to life in prison.
He didn't show a lot of reaction to the sentence. Aiden was just 14 years old when he killed Tristan Bailey, but how does that compare to 17-year-old Mackenzie Shirilla's jealous love turning into a double murder situation?
So deeply sorry. I hope one day you can see I would never let this happen or do it on purpose.
This is Mackenzie Shirilla, an inspiring young model who found herself in an Ohio double murder prosecution after attempting suicide. A terrible collision claimed the lives of 2 young people. Driving at a terrifying 100 miles per hour, Mackenzie Shirilla smashed a Toyota Camry into a brick building without braking. The unfortunate passengers on Mackenzie's car, Dominic Russo, 20, and Davian Flanagan, 19, were confirmed dead at the scene. It wasn't long before it was revealed that Mackenzie wanted to end everything because her once sweet relationship with Dominic had grown stale. Mackenzie Shirilla was confronted with overwhelming evidence from the prosecution as the trial got underway, demonstrating the cold, calculated character of the crime and her attempt at a partially successful murder-suicide of her boyfriend and his friend.
Mackenzie's statement in the hospital to Detective Azu, "Can't you just take my license away for 10 years or something?" That statement is Mackenzie Shirilla. The most selfish person I know. Ironically, Dom was the most selfless person I know. Mackenzie Shirilla murdered Dom and Davion in cold blood and had already moved on. Kenzie killed Dom over the thought of losing him, and she made Davion collateral damage. She was driving, going to concerts, and dressing up for Halloween, no thoughts of the families and lives that she had destroyed.
Then Mackenzie's mother got the chance to address the court.
I want to say to the families that I'm broken, sad, and lost, and my heart hurts for everyone, okay? Davion was her new friend, and Dom was the love of her life, and he was part of our family, okay? I'm just so sorry that this happened, and I'm heartbroken, okay? And then, Your Honor, this was a terrible, tragic nightmare accident to have happened that she has no memory of, and she will never emotionally or physically recover from it. She almost died too, and we're asking that you please not run the sentences consecutive. It was family, and we all love each other. That morning of the accident, she called. I got a phone call that there was a car accident. Okay, so we went to the hospital, and I didn't even know who was in the car. The names had not been confirmed yet, and I was crying. I missed him so much. We loved him so much. So I called Dom, like over and over again, praying that he was going to answer the phone, and he didn't answer the phone. We loved him so much, and I hung up the phone. I did not talk about social media. I didn't even know what was going on.
The jury and the presiding judge had had enough of the seemingly never-ending courtroom drama. It was now time for Mackenzie to find out her fate.
Court renders the following verdicts. Count 1. The court, having had count 1 tried to pursuant to waiver, finds the defendant, Mackenzie Shirilla, guilty of murder, to wit Dominic Russo, in violation of Ohio Revised Code Section 2903.02a, is charged in count 1. Count 2. The court, having had count 2 tried to pursuant to waiver, finds the defendant, Mackenzie Shirilla, guilty of murder, to wit Davion Flanagan, in violation of Ohio Revised Code Section 2903.02a, is charged in count 2 of the indictment.
Mackenzie could be seen sobbing as her sentence was read. Mackenzie's jealous love was horrible and fatal, and was the violence 12-year-old Morgan Geyser caused.
Stab.
Did you try to stab her before that?
No.
Did you guys go to the park?
Yeah.
This is 12-year-old Morgan Geyser. She's being charged with attempting to kill Peyton Leutner on May 31st, 2014. Who was her best friend at the time, in Waukesha, Wisconsin. 12-year-olds Morgan Geyser and Anissa Wire carried out a horrible deed that would change their lives forever. After luring Peyton Leutner into a forest, they stabbed her 19 times using a knife. This horrible deed was committed in an effort to appease the imaginary character Slender Man.
Stabbed her first.
I think Anissa stabbed her first, and then I continued, and she was like, "Morgan, make sure she doesn't miss this game." She told me that she got her in the lung, right here 6 times, and then in the leg a few times. So we told her we were gonna get help, but we really weren't. We were gonna run and let her pass away. So we ran.
Remarkably, Leutner survived and was found on the road where she was rescued.
On a 12-year-old female, she appears to be stabbed.
She appears to be what?
Stabbed.
Stabbed?
Correct.
Are you with her right now?
Yes.
Is she awake?
She's awake.
Is there any bleeding going on?
Her clothing has got blood on it.
Okay, and you found her and she was just laying there?
Yeah.
Even after she had been taken into custody, Morgan was not at all alarmed by what had occurred. She was captured on interrogation film singing and dancing not long after her arrest.
Are you going to put me in prison and I'm gonna rot and die? Please don't cut off my head. I'm just a window, and I'll be wearing and hold on the outside. Sometimes I'm looking in.
Wire and Geyser were both tried as adults, and Geyser was eventually charged with attempted first-degree homicide. With overwhelming evidence that linked her to the horrific crime, Morgan Geyser's fate seemed almost certain. She was given a harsh sentence that included mental health treatments in addition to 40 years to life in jail. While some see Morgan Geyser as an innocent victim of pop culture, how does it stack up against a murder that resulted from an argument over a bad grade? That is the case of Gregory Ramos.
Alright, so I got home, I got in an argument with my mom. She slapped me across the face, she began to hit me. She started beating me. I didn't like it, so I strangled her to death.
This is Gregory Ramos, a teenage boy from DeBerry, Florida, who brutally murdered his own mother. The terrifying incident happened on November 2nd, 2018. After arguing with his mother, Gail Elaine Clevenger, over a poor grade, Gregory Logan Ramos, then 15 years old, choked her to death. The victim of this crime was buried beneath the church's fire pit, and the scene was meticulously cleaned up. According to the emerging facts that appalled the entire country, considering his age and the deliberateness of his acts, Ramos's painstaking planning and execution of the murder were astonishing.
Me across the face, she began to hit me. She started beating me. I didn't like it, so I strangled her to death. I put her in a wheelbarrow. I put her in my car. I took the car. I had a mental breakdown where I was committed suicide 3 times. I drove back to the church. I began to dig a hole. I dig a hole right under the fire pit. I dug a pretty deep hole. Pretty deep, deep enough to put a fit about in, alright?
All the stones were arranged. It was a fire pit. And this is where him and his friends would always come. We did a cursory search. Unfortunately, her foot was protruding after digging down maybe 8 or 10 inches. That's not really a big place to where he put his mouth.
The charges were severe: first-degree murder, tampering with evidence, and abuse of a corpse. Ramos entered a guilty plea, while Dylan Sigleric and Brian Barras, 2 of his friends, were also charged as accessories for their roles in the crime's cover-up.
I went the entire house because I was looking for her, but she's not here. I just got home, and my house is completely trashed. It looks like someone broke in the side door.
The verdict was never in doubt. With the strong victim testimonials, the enormous body of evidence, and the cold-blooded calculations made during the commission of the crime, Gregory Ramos received a prison term of 45 years.
Sentence for count 1 is 45 years in the custody of the Florida Department of Corrections, followed by lifetime probation. Probation will have the standard conditions with the special condition of a mental health evaluation.
While Gregory's actions were undoubtedly shocking, it wouldn't be the only time a teen commits a murder over a bad grade. Enter Willard Miller. Meet Willard Miller, a high schooler who killed his teacher over bad Spanish grades.
Unspeakable. That's the word one school official is using to describe the murder of a beloved high school teacher. Her body, with severe trauma to the head, was found hidden in a local park. And now 2 16-year-old students have been charged as adults in her.
Willard Miller, a high school student, is charged with killing his teacher brutally in retaliation for receiving poor grades. Miller made a bizarre decision to beat a cherished Spanish teacher with a bat till she passed away, shocking the entire community.
¿Qué tal? Buenas noches.
66-year-old Noema Graber was found beaten to death in a park where she regularly went for walks after school.
During their trial as adults, Miller and his accomplice, Jeremy Goodale, were charged with first-degree murder. Goodale quickly confessed and worked with the prosecution to receive a lighter sentence.
I offer my sincerest apologies to the Graber family, but I know my words will never be enough. I've had time to think on what to say, and I'm sorry. Truly sorry. I'm so sorry. To Mrs. Graber's friends and the members of her church, truly sorry for what I've taken from you.
He also gave gruesome details of how the murder went down.
On November 2nd of 2021, I met Willard Miller at Chautauqua Park. I understood that he had the intent to kill Mrs. Graber. Aiden had brought a bat, among other supplies, to go through with the murder. And after he had struck Nohima Graber, we then moved her off of the trail, where I then struck her, and she died as a result. Afterwards, we removed any evidence that we could, and that was my recollection of the events on November 2nd.
During Miller's trial, the victim's son emotionally testified, honoring his mother's legacy.
I forgive them and feel sorry that they had that anger in their hearts. There's no point in being angry at them. My mother was an angel of a woman and was one of the kindest souls.
The verdict was always clear in the face of strong evidence and a moving victim statement from friends, family, and school community members honoring the deceased teacher.
The court finds, based on the nature and circumstances of this offense, along with the required 25 factors that I am to consider in sentencing a juvenile in the state of Iowa for murder in the first degree, that the defendant, Willard Noble Chaden Miller, should be sentenced to life with the possibility of parole after 35 years. This sentence is permissible under the Iowa law. A 35-year mandatory minimum is not cruel and unusual punishment for the defendant, as it represents the appropriate time of incarceration for the defendant in Mr. Goodell's premeditated murder.
Willard just stood there looking unfazed as the sentence was read. Present in the Circuit Court of Monongalia County, West Virginia, today are Rachael Shouf and Shelia Eddy, who killed their friend when they were just 16 years old.
The scheme was to hide knives on their bodies and to attack Skylar at an agreed-upon moment.
In West Virginia's Star City, Skylar Neese, 16, was with friends Eddy and Shouf. Shouf and Eddy reportedly made the decision that they no longer liked Neese. They therefore planned to kill her.
Eddy and Rachael Shouf carried out that plan. Together they stabbed and killed Skylar.
Shouf's confession led to the arrest of both teenagers. Shouf agreed to cooperate with the investigation in exchange for pleading guilty to second-degree murder.
I'm so sorry. I don't know if there's a proper way to make this apology, because there are not even words to describe the guilt and remorse that I feel each day for what I've done. I hurt the Neese family and those who love Skylar. I hurt my parents and shamed my family. May God bring eternal peace to Skylar and the entire Neese family.
After securing a plea deal, the judge now gives Shouf her sentence.
Shouf, it is the sentence of the court that you be imprisoned in the West Virginia State Penitentiary for a period of 30 years.
Giving her the possibility of parole after 10 years, and now for Eddy.
It is the sentence of the court that you be imprisoned in the West Virginia State Penitentiary for the rest of your natural life. That sentence is technically with mercy, which makes you eligible for parole after you have served 15 years.
While Rachael was remorseful for her actions, Shelia wasn't, and the sentence didn't seem to faze her. A reaction shared by Martice Fuller. This is Martice Fuller. He is on trial in Kenosha County, Wisconsin, for the murder of his ex-girlfriend and the attempted murder of her mother. Martice Fuller, 15, is said to have broken into his ex-girlfriend's home while carrying a gun. He shot his ex-girlfriend in her bedroom as she was listening to music, killing her. Following the sound of gunfire, the mother walked out of her bedroom, confronted the shooter, and ended up being shot twice herself. The mother would live through the shooting and provide the police with Martice Fuller's identity. Fuller entered a not guilty plea. However, the jury wasn't convinced.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree intentional homicide.
After the jury found Fuller guilty on 3 counts, he showed what appeared to be emotion for the first time on trial. Fuller insisted on his innocence throughout the hearing. He prepared a statement for the courtroom just before he was sentenced to life in jail.
Mr. Fuller's prepared a statement that he asked that I read on his behalf.
Okay.
Martice writes, I wanted to write this giving my sincerest apologies to this family. I once shared time and love with. Truthfully, I am sorry about the pain you've all suffered through, but more importantly, the loss of my ex-girlfriend Kaylee, that I loved too. But I have to continue to stand innocent because I am. And I hope you all can eventually see in your hearts that I am not the person the media has made me out to be.
Now it was time for the judge to deliver the sentence.
I don't have any ability to trust that you will never commit these acts again. So in the interest of protecting the public, acknowledging the seriousness of these acts, the court orders that on count 1, you are sentenced to life in prison without eligibility for extended supervision.
As Fuller was being sentenced to spend the rest of his life behind bars, it appears he was completely unfazed.
The court is ordering 15 years in prison, followed by 6 years of extended supervision, consecutive to count 1. And on count 3, the court orders 5 years of initial confinement and 3 years of extended supervision. Count 2 and 3 are concurrent with each other, consecutive to count 1.
The actions of Martice Fuller were shocking, and even his demeanor in court unnerving. However, when it comes to shocking reactions to life sentences from teenage killers, very few come close to the chilling smiles and unbothered disposition of 17-year-old Nicholas Lindsay, who even laughed in court. This 16-year-old St. Petersburg, Florida resident, Nicholas Lindsay, is appearing in Pinellas Pasco Circuit Court after committing a crime for which he was found guilty of first-degree murder and given a life sentence.
This text with him was me saying, "Be safe, Dad. I love you." To which he immediately replied, "I will, sweetheart. I love you too." That was 1 hour before Lindsay went to shooting him.
That's Amanda Crawford's voice, the daughter of St. Petersburg police officer David Crawford, who was killed in a shootout with Nicholas Lindsay. On February 21st, 2011, Officer David Crawford responded to a 911 call regarding a potential burglary at a Tropicana field. The caller reported that he witnessed a man in his backyard with a brick in his hand before he hopped the fence. Officer Crawford saw the mystery burglar, later identified as Nicholas Lindsay, as soon as he arrived at the scene and got out of his car. Probably Crawford's biggest mistake was thinking he had the whole thing under control, especially since the suspect was a teenager. As the officer approached, Nicholas Lindsay allegedly opened fire on David Crawford.
Every single shot he fired was exactly where he aimed it, at the body of Officer Crawford.
Officer Crawford fired 6 rounds from his Glock, but Lindsay ran away from the scene without being hit. After finding the injured 25-year veteran on the ground, another officer made an instant call for emergency medical assistance. The medical staff at Bayfront Medical Center declared David Crawford dead as soon as he was brought in. Following Crawford's death, the word spread rapidly, sparking a huge manhunt for the murderer that involved over 200 police officers from several Tampa Bay agencies. After receiving multiple tips from the public, on the evening of February 22, 2011, police raided the flat where Nicholas Lindsay, his mother Deneen Sweat, and his brothers were living, putting an end to the manhunt. Later, Sweat told ABC affiliate WFTS that although she suspected something wasn't right when the cops showed up at her apartment, she still allowed them to enter. Sweat wasn't stuck in two minds about what to do after learning why the cops were interested in her son. She informed her son right away that he had to cooperate with the cops. Speaking with WFTS, Sweat stated,
I told my son, man up and tell what happened. And he did that.
Sweat was with her son when he admitted to killing David Crawford, the deceased officer. According to police chief Chuck Harmon, after his parents begged him to confess to the crime, Lindsay did not withhold any information.
We're on safety, but it wasn't. And I pulled it out on my finger on the chair.
Harmon went on to add, when he did make the admission on tape for us at the end of the day, it was quite apparent that he was remorseful in his actions. Lindsay admitted in his confession that he had shot Crawford in the stomach using a gun he had purchased off the streets for $140 a week earlier. In addition, the 16-year-old admitted to the authorities that he couldn't remember how many times he had shot Crawford. However, it was eventually discovered by authorities that Lindsay had shot at the oblivious policeman at least 4 times. The teenage killer ran away from the scene, throwing his gun into a creek. Behind the third St. Petersburg police officer to pass away in less than a month, Crawford's murder case garnered a lot of media attention. Unexpectedly, reporters crowded the Pinellas Pasco County Courthouse the following day. Nicholas Lindsay was officially charged with David Crawford's murder. Even though Lindsay had been accused in the juvenile system truancy court before, the teen had never been in a murder trial before. Remarkably, Lindsay was emotionless in the courtroom. Nicholas Lindsay Sr., his father, sobbed as he expressed his remorse to the deceased officer's family and friends. The very up father said this.
On behalf of me, my son, and our entire family, we send our deepest sorrow to them and his colleague that he worked with. It's my only son, no son that it happened.
Speaking inside the courtroom, Officer Crawford's partner, Stu Crisco, said he found it difficult to forgive Lindsay.
According to my faith, I am supposed to forgive you. I do not know that I will ever be able to do that.
Stu Crisco added,
and I hope that you live to be a very old man, locked up, and every single day that you were locked away, that you can think of the choices that you made that night and all of the things that you missed.
Following a trial that lasted a week, 17-year-old Nicholas Lindsay was found guilty of David Crawford's murder in March of 2012 and given a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Lindsay escaped the death penalty mostly due to his age, even though he was tried as an adult. Lindsay's life sentence was maintained in court after an appeal 2 years later. When the convicted murderer heard the judge's decision, he shocked everyone by smiling. Amanda, David Crawford's daughter, was among those who were taken aback by the teenager's lack of remorse. Amanda chastised Lindsay for his unsettling courtroom reaction when she spoke with the media following the verdict.
Justice was served, and I'm glad it's over, and it just kind of proves to me that he's an animal as he sat there smiling.
Which case was the most shocking to you? Tell us in the comments down below.